What's going on, guys, and welcome to the Booth Talk channel. I'm Jeremy, and in this video we're going to be talking about the paint process itself and different tips and tricks that you can do. I get a lot of questions asking me, how do I lay my clear better? How do I adjust my gun for this clear? What clear do you suggest? What paint do you suggest? Things like that, as well as just different steps throughout the entire painting process. I kind of figured I would just do this video just to kind of put everything into one and just see if I can, put these tips out there to help you guys. Just kind of try to explain and break down what we do on a day-to-day basis for somebody who may be just getting into it, maybe doing apprenticing or, kind of gotten out of the apprenticeship and they're kind of out on their own. Because once you get out on your own and are actually doing it more and more, there's things that you run into that you just will have to learn how to fix on your own while you're there in the booth. That nobody will really teach you that kind of stuff. So with this, I'm actually going to be basing everything off of two questions that I got from a guy on Instagram. Because I record with my phone, I make a sheet, a cheat sheet as I like to call it, and if you see me looking down, that's what I'm referencing. Had two questions get sent to me last night. It's by a guy on Instagram that is actually doing an apprenticeship right now. Look through his work. Looks like he's turning out some pretty nice work, for a starter, and you can tell that he actually has passion for what he does. And the questions that he sent me was, how can I make sure I don't get any dirt in my work? And another question that he sent was, how can I get my clear to lay flatter so that it's not as peely? I figured those were two great questions just to kind of do a video just to help everybody else on and kind of explain the process of it. Now, we'll start with the dirt question first. The thing about getting dirt in your paint job and how you're wanting to be sure that you don't get any dirt in it. The thing is that you really can't be sure that you're not going to get anything in it. Things happen. However, there are several steps that you can do to ensure that the dirt will be minimal. One thing that I like to tell everybody is the cleaner the car is, the less chance you have. Some shops will go through and prep the entire car, blow everything down, and then they'll just kind of hand clean it with glass cleaner or whatnot. I've been at shops that take the entire car. It doesn't matter if all you're doing is just a spot on a fender and blending the color out and then clearing. They will pressure wash the entire car, under hood, everything. I've had honestly good results both ways, and anybody who's been in the industry for a while will tell you that it's kind of weird that even some of the crappier cars that you'll get into the shop, you guys know what I'm talking about, sometimes will be the cleanest and best jobs for some reason. However, in my opinion, the way I like to do things is once you get a car prepped out, everything's good to go, because in all honesty, 90% of the end result is going to be from all the work that you put into it before you started painting. Finish out your prep work. I personally will take everything. I'll take a blower and I will blow everything out. I'm talking everything. Open up your doors, get between your jambs, get between the fender and the door. Get inside on the B pillar where that rear door hinges in. Blow out that. Open up your hood, blow out all inside the hood, blow out into the corners where a lot of dirt and all will get tucked into where the fender and the hood meet over there up by your windshield. Blowing out all of that first. A lot of people will tend to go ahead and actually start washing the car, and that's fine. However, once dirt gets wet, it kind of won't go anywhere if it's in some of those harder to reach places, and it'll dry back and it'll just kind of dry out and just stick even more. So that's why I kind of recommend just blowing everything out, as much stuff as you can, because a lot of times, and again, you guys that have been in the industry long enough, you know what I'm talking about. You'll get pine straw and leaves and just crap that gets stuck up in the top corners of the hood and fender area. Again, right there at that windshield post where the windshield and all that meet, and that can be a main problem area. Another thing is once you start washing it, wash everything. I prefer to use a pressure washer just so you can get everything out. If you're painting a fender, if you're painting a bedside, stuff like that, a lot of people will just sit there and just wash the outside. The underside of what you're painting is just as important. If you get inside that wheel lip, take a red Scotch-Brite, gray Scotch-Brite, it doesn't matter. Throw a little bit of degreaser or something on there, and just take it and scuff just on the inside of the wheel well, right there on that lip. That is always caked in dirt, debris, everything, whether it's on a bedside or whether it's on just a regular fender up front. You got to think, as the wheel's spinning, that's where everything goes. If you see one that's obviously really, really bad, get in there with the hose, spray everything out, scrub it down. Now, after you get done with the washing process, drying everything out, the tighter and cleaner your mask job is, the better off you're going to be not getting any trash into it. Trash can come from anywhere. It can come from you. It can come from an improperly cleaned gun. It can come from a dirty spray area. You know, if your booth isn't clean. It can also hide out in as it's during the prep or during the masking process from the paper and the plastic and all that jazz. If you have any little pockets or anything, that will always tend to be where your trash and all goes. It can be coming from dry spray as you're coming across with your panel, because you're not painting directly up here, but as you're coming across, that dry spray is or the overspray is going to land up on there, and it's going to get in there. And well, say if you're coming across with clear at a higher pressure, then all of a sudden you might have something blow out from there if you have a pocket or whatnot. One thing to look for is always, if you have a loose area or whatnot, fold it over, tape it flat. The flatter you can get it and the smoother you can get it, the better off you're going to be. If it won't fold, what I like to do is either put another piece of paper up over it and tape that down, so then I have it just a nice flat area, or I call it building a bridge. Basically, tear off your tape, tear off how much you need, tear off a couple pieces, stick them all together, just kind of working them up a little bit by little bit. Now you've got a bridge about that wide full of tape, and you can just stick it across it, press it down, and then that will kind of hold over the void there. I cannot emphasize how much the cleaner the mask job is, the better off the end product is going to be. Taking the time, even once it's in the booth, once you're taped up with everything, blowing everything down again. Going through, blowing down with I take the towels that I use for Wipedown, the lint-free towels. I will take those typically, and with a blower, once plastic's already pulled, it's pulled tight and cut out, tape down. I'll go through, I'll blow everything down, and I'll take that lint-free towel and I'll wipe down the surface as I'm going, just dry, not with any type of cleaner or anything like that. That's just before I get going with everything. Just try to eliminate anything that might have gotten on it from pulling it into the booth, pulling plastic, anything that can come off of the plastic. If you guys leave the plastic out in the shop or not in a clean area, naturally things are going to land on that plastic. So that's another thing to look out for. One thing that you can do is whenever you're cleaning it, going through the actual wipe down process itself, is to actually go through. I use pump sprayers. Everybody uses a different thing. I like the pressurized pump sprayers. Spray down the panel, get in there. Actually wipe down inside the jams, inside the grooves as much as you can. That's another thing as you're masking the car. Clean out the jams. Good God, clean out the jams. Alcohol tends to work really well, or an ammonia-based cleaner. Glass cleaner does great. Let's see. As you're pulling plastic, I'll get to the wipe down process in a second. As you're pulling the plastic, don't just pull it over and drape it down and then that's it. Plastic needs to be tight. It will tend to flop around and create anything that's it can kick up dust and dirt off the floor. It can do several different things with that. One of the things is that whenever you pull it down, and say you're doing a fender, door, and a hood, as you pull it, go ahead. What I like to do is go ahead and just pull it tight right there over that wheel well. That way I can get that nice and tight. And then I'll go to the opposite side of the hood and I'll pull that, and I'll make that nice and tight across the back of the hood. And then I'll get back in the back side of the back corner of the car, and I'll just pull the plastic around so that all the way down the side of the car and all the way over the front of the car and back is nice and tight. That way everywhere where I'm spraying, there's not going to be any gaps, there's not going to be folds, no anything like that, and it actually works out really well. Then just come back, tape everything down, and you're good. Making sure that you're cleaning, back to the wipe down process, making sure that you're cleaning, taking your rag, working in between your fender, your fender and your door gap, or your fender and your hood and stuff like that, making sure you get the cleaners there on the edges. It'll help you prevent fish eyes and get off any type of contamination that might still be on there. Also, I can't emphasize enough a good quality tack rag. Some people like the stiffer rags. You kind of got to stretch them out to activate them. Me personally, I don't like those things. However, I know there are some tack rags out there that are super sticky, and then you get those super sticky ones. I don't know who makes them, but I know that they were yellow. The last ones that I used, those things were absolutely crazy. They leave the sticky residue over whatever panel you're doing. I like them so they have just a light tack to them. You can just you can use it and your hand isn't sticky. That's the way I judge them by. Open it up all the way, not just partially, so it just kind of unfolds like that. Open that son of a gun up all the way, and then refold it up, and then come back, nice, easy, blow everything down, or tack everything down rather, and go to town. A trick for bumpers, if you're doing bumpers, is the less you can touch a bumper, the better off you're going to be. Plastic naturally attracts dust with static. The best thing I can tell you is to get an alcohol cleaner. If you don't have one like PPG, PPG has DX103. I have used a isopropyl alcohol and water, like in a 50-50 mix. Taking that, mix it together, and spray it. The trick to it is to spray it on the back side of the panel. So after you've already blow tacked the entire panel, everything's good to go. Take that alcohol mix, spray it on the back side. If it's a new panel, if it's E-coated or something like that, dust your alcohol mixture across it. It kills the static. Absolutely kills the static, and it has a great result. So those are just some simple tricks to watching your make sure you're taking precautions on getting dirt. Obviously, there are a lot of other things like booth cleaning yourself, paint suits, and different things like that. And I can get into that in a different time. But we're already at almost 12 minutes just talking about how to watch out for dirt and prep process for that. So not wanting to make a 20-minute video here for you guys because I know things get boring. So go ahead and get to the second question. How can I lay my clear flat? How can I get my clear to lay flatter so that it's not as peely? Again, all of this goes into your gun setup and how you're spraying everything from the ground up. A lot of people will just want to get that clear to lay slick. And they're like, oh, that's all I want. I want that show finish. Well, the slicker the finish, it all starts with what you're putting down and how you're putting it down. If you're putting down a substrate, if you're putting down your sealer or your base coat, starting from the, obviously from the ground up, if you're laying that down and it's not having time to dry out, or it's not being atomized enough and you're just putting it on there real chunky, your clear will eventually lay, once you spray your clear, it's going to lay out and it's going to be, oh man, that's nice. And then I've seen people that'll do it, they'll throw it on bake and then it comes back and it just draws up and all of a sudden the entire thing is peely. Well, it wasn't like that before. Well, yeah, it's because you didn't give it a slick enough surface on that. Now, the thing is that you're going to have some peel. It's the nature of spraying with urethanes. It happens. With the way they lay, with the way everything does, they're going to naturally be a little bit more orange peeling than anything else. Can you do things to alleviate it? Yeah. Can you do things to, make it easier on yourself? Yes. Again, it all comes down to gun setup, the air pressure, gun speed, distance. All of these things come into play, and a lot of these things come in as you're getting more and more experience. The thing is that normally, talk to your gun manufacturer what they recommend. A lot of times it's written on the gun itself. And talk to your actual paint reps in the area. See what they recommend. Now, every gun spray is different. I will always recommend Asada because they have always given me the best results that I've had across the board from beginning to end, and they give me great customer service. So I will always recommend Asada. Now, the thing to pay attention to, if you're just wanting to focus on your clear coat, say you've already done everything great, the base laid down nice and flat and it's looking good and you're ready to clear, but you just can't lay the clear down slick enough. It could be that you have too much air pressure. It could be that you have not enough fluid. So see where you're at. If you've got enough pressure and it's going on and it's not laying out, back your fluid out a little bit more. Make it a little bit wetter going out. But another thing, this is the main thing that I always see that people will tend to screw up with, and it's actually on activator and reducers for the clear. If your clear calls for a reducer, some don't. A lot of people will sit there and try to push a medium activator on a big job or a medium activator in a hot environment. They'll use the wrong category reduction and catalyst for what they need. Instead of letting the clear coat's products, the hardener and reducer and all, making them work for them. You can actually get the clear coat to lay down a lot easier and a lot slicker without having to sit there and try to force it to go by just picking the right hardener and reducer. Naturally, if it's 90, we'll just say 90 degrees, you're not going to use something that's made for in the 80-degree mark. It's going to be drying too fast. It's going to be setting. That reducer is already gone by the time it gets to the panel. All your reducer in a paint product is for is just to get the material from the gun to the panel. That's all it's there for. It's just for the transfer. It's going to come out whenever it's on the surface. Choosing a slower hardener will tend to allow the clear to flow on out a little bit, as well as with that, if you're using that slower reducer, it'll get it from the panel or get it from the gun onto the panel, and then it'll allow it to kind of lay out a little bit as the reducer comes out. If you're trying to over apply it and you don't have the right products, a lot of times you'll sit there try to, and you might eventually get it to lay out great. But one of the things that you can run into is the fact that you'll be doing over application, and you're going to be running into solvent pop, you're going to be running into dieback, or it's going to start sitting there and kind of start pinching up. So choose the right hardeners, choose the right reduction, the right reducers for what you need, and always go with the proper gun setup. Make sure you got enough fluid, make sure you got enough air pressure, not too much of each, and you'll be good. Play around with it, do some test panels, try them at different PSIs, try them with different hardeners and such. Go from there, see what you guys think. Hopefully this video is helpful to you. We'll catch you guys on the flip side. You guys take care, stay safe. We'll catch you next time.